Has anyone else got anything that they've watched or read? Because we haven't done a book review in ages, Ellie.
I'm trying to finish American Psycho. I keep getting waves where I'm like, I think I can manage another chapter, but it is just the same issue I've been having the entire time.
It's not good.
Yeah, I can't. I hate the fact that you've done this to me, Liam.
It's a classic. I'm sorry for trying to kind of give you, a literary
It's all right. I mean, if you
education.
study it, it's a different beast altogether. I have a friend. I have a guy I know who's writing his master's thesis on it, and he. I don't know what kind of guy he is really. He's not a friend. So, I mean, I've heard him talk. He says, sometimes I get really into it and I can only read a chapter at a time because it's so violent. And I was like, it's not that bad.
It's just boring.
Yeah, at one point you're like, okay, we get it. But it's the
Yeah.
excess in it where you're like, okay, I can kind of understand what he's trying to do here. By the time you get to the end, it's desensitization, like, completely. And it's a really interesting critique of American culture at that period in time, but I mean, Ellis was doing it, Palahniuk was doing it as well, and so I mean, you kind of get these guys where you're like, you're all doing the same fucking thing. But
I think that my exact issue with it is that it's the kind of book where you get like, I don't know, maybe 30% of the way through, and I was like, oh, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I keep hoping that it's going to like either add something new to it where it's like, actually we're also trying to do this, or just twist slightly, but instead the book is very much just like, this is what we're trying to do, and I'm going to make it as drawn out as I can so that you have to sit there and be like, yeah, I get it. I imagine if I didn't get it, I'd be like, this is amazing. But I was like, very early on was like, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And now that I've sort of know what you're doing,
just tedious.
I'm done. Yeah.
How long have you been reading it now?
Oh, it's got to be like a year.
That's
I
too
hate
long.
Yes, Liam, I hate it.
Just power down, push
I
through.
want to read my other books.
Yeah, in those scenarios when it's taking you a year and you're genuinely not enjoying it, the beauty of the world is that you can stop reading it instead of finishing it.
No, she's not allowed.
No, Liam can't
not
do
allowed.
it.
I feel like I have to finish it.
So has anyone read a book recently?
I've been listening to the first 10 chapters of The Grapes of Wrath.
How's that?
Yeah, it's actually I love it, but
well, that's
I
good.
mean, what's there to fucking say about it? You just asked for a book, and I'm like, I have.
Yeah.
But
Is this what Ellie should read after she finishes American Psycho?
no, enjoy yourself, enjoy life.
yeah.
Grapes of Wrath I think, is a very funny book because it's really fun and it's really well written, and you can tell that
Steinbeck.
Jesus Christ, Steinbeck is having a great time, like, recounting these fun characters, and even though the material is is set in a miserable time, and it's mostly about the drama of being in that miserable time, the characters are all quirky fucking weirdos that seem, if not based on our amalgamations of real life experiences, they're genuinely creative and interesting people, but each and every one of them it just seems like they would be so much fun to write, because I mean, even like for example, where I am now, there's like a preacher character, and the preacher character is given up preaching because he's lost his way, and he had a reputation when he was a preacher for like taking women back after the sessions, and then just kind of like having sex out in the fields, and it was like I loved it. I loved those days. But he's got this like habit of just repeating himself over and over again about like, I just don't have the spirit anymore. And to me, that's like a funny, really absurd character that definitely like rings true to like a lot of people's experiences of like shit times that even the preachers have lost. What these like pinnacles of society they've given up as well. I don't know. Like, obviously there's a lot of great like, subtext and context to it and all, but I just think other than that, it's actually a joy to read because it's actually funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine from a writer's perspective more than like oh, this is hilarious. I'm like, as a reader, I've been loving this. I just think from my perspective, it's just funny to see somebody write characters like this and they genuinely pull you through what is probably a pretty miserable story.
Well, I just
it's only been 10 chapters.
I want to say thank you for classing up the show a bit, because that's sort of what we were trying to do with getting Ellie to read American Psycho, and that's failed. So thanks, Lee, for bringing some like intellectual weight to the show, which is exactly why I wanted both of you on, because that's exactly what I wanted.
What a shame that the film we picked, not only did we prepare nothing for it, but it has to be that it's like the nadir of intellectual property. It's like it's real fucking terrible shit.
I mean, I think the reason why I have no sympathy for Ellie with this American Psycho stuff is because she's making me read these awful High School Musical books, and they're so bad, but I'm getting them done, and
Surely
that's the
you
difference.
Can picture Troy in every scene, and it makes the difference. You know, it's
Right, if they were
visualize in your mind, man.
if they were written even like semi well, then yeah. But the way it's written, like these characters aren't the characters that I know and love. They're just they share the same name, but it doesn't have the right like voice for the characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
there's so much like that. Sure, if you're a long-term fan of pretty much anything, that will happen to you.
yeah.
You know, so
But also,
High School Musical has to be really up in the esoteric choice for fandom, though.
but like the other thing is, alright, the key thing about High School Musical is it's a musical, and that just doesn't work in book form.
You know what? Didn't actually piece that together when you said you were reading High School Musical.
The first question that came to my mind was like, is there a CD that comes with it?
There should be, but no.
Or like like Tolkien books, always he had songs in it, and he had
exactly.
meters and stuff written out. You're like,
okay, play
let
track
me
one
play
here.
this, like,
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, now I get it. Troy.
Together.
Yeah. And like I said, in the first book, they talk about these boots are made for walking. So they don't even use an original song, but then they
my god.
it's ridiculous. I don't.
Which version?
That's a
I
dangerous
can't remember.
question.
Dolly Parton or Jessica Simpson?
Dolly Parton, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Or
It changes the dynamic completely.
Of course.
I was trying to figure that. I was confusing something else. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. But yeah, do we have any other spoiler-free reviews we want to do?
Huh? Oh, well, I'm reading Last Shot, the Han Solo book that Lee sent me for my birthday, so thank you again. And I'm also reading, I kept on trucking on Don DeLillo's White Noise for my second or third read now, I think, of that one.
Jesus Christ. I finished that book.
Yeah, you did.
So I think I told you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could talk a little bit about White Noise if you desperately desire, but
it's really good. Lee was. It's a depressing one, I think, that you told me as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, okay. So White Noise is about a guy.
Jack Gladney.
Who's a teacher in Hitler studies at a small town university, and basically the story is him collecting. It's told in his collection of thoughts day to day about his marital life, about his thoughts on mortality is often the biggest theme in it. As well as just his exposure to other people, and we kind of get that summarized in very, I would say. What's that term? It's kind of like the old modernist writings. It's a postmodern book, but it's like the modernist thing where it's a stream of consciousness kind of almost. Mm-hmm. And then sort of halfway through it, a cataclysmic event happens that realistically kind of confirms everything the character feared about mortality and his impending death. And the next half of the book is just him coloring everything in his life with just a miserable downward spiral. It's funny in that kind of dark way, but it was also so super true to a lot of, because I found I've shared a lot of the same fears and mortality with the guy, and fears in general, I suppose, just about my own pettiness. Like the guy, he's a very petty character, and he was terrible to read because he reminded me how petty I can be. But the whole thing, I was reading this for months, and it came to a point where it was good and bad, because it was bad because then I sunk to like a real low point in what was up to that point like a couple of year-long depression that I hadn't realized I was dealing with. But the good thing was that when I realized that, I was able to get like right over it immediately. And realized, oh shit, these things have been weighing me down for a long time, and I got to sort that shit out. So the book was super useful for that, and it seems like I've now come on this show to talk about every single mental I could possibly come up with.
I mean, that's fine. Like I said, this is a safe space. It's all good. It's just going on the internet forever.
It's only us on the internet. Sure, what the fuck do they care?
I mean, we have literally one person that tweets us, so I'm sure Amanda is going to be very sympathetic.
I was going to say, what will Amanda think? I'm dying to know.
Yeah.
Amanda, let us know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird. I don't know if it can be like recommended. It's pretty miserable. If you find yourself in a depression and feel like maybe the best way to get out of it is to sink deeper, White Noise is the book for you.
What would you give it out of 5?
Books are weird. They're hard because like you if I had to rate, like, I think of books like you live with them. You know, like once you've done with them, they tend to just carry along and inform your character in life for maybe the rest of the eternity, the entirety of it. So I'd say, you know, it's like 5 out of 5, only for the fact that I'm never going to forget it.
Okay.
And it's going to stick with me for better or worse. It's like, it's not like a matter of enjoyment so much as a matter of shared experience. And that's what the best books do, and that's how they kind of, you know, the worst books are the ones that you read, you struggle through, and then you forget immediately, because you're like, that's literally like weeks, months of your life gone down the fucking drain, like a High School Musical book.
Yeah, I mean, it's not taking me like months to get through them, thankfully, but
yeah, I would imagine not.
It's not a pleasurable
Size 16 font.
So Jason, are you reading White Noise, or have you read it?
I've read it before. I've studied the book.
Okay.
Right now I wanted to go through it again because I wanted to have a project with Lee where we could actually maybe make an adaptation of it. And then after a long conversation with him, he felt that maybe we could do something around the similar themes, but that it was probably a little bit too dense to adapt. So that was pretty much it.
I like how creative you both are. Like, I'm
we're
stuck
not.
with
We don't do
Ellie,
shit,
and
to be
just-
honest. Lee
we
writes
do
quite a
shit
bit.
individually.
Yeah.
But then we keep talking about doing more shit together, and then we're like, oh, but we've got all these individual things, so maybe after those, then it just never happens. We have the show that we are struggling to keep going. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but if I can give Ellie just a little bit of advice with regards to American Psycho, finish it.
Yeah.
I'm going to
finish it because one of the shittiest books I've ever read is one I love to hate.
Psycho.
And it was William Burroughs' Naked Lunch. I despise that book so much because I was going through the exact same process you are, where you're like, I get it. Okay, I get it. You're a heroin addict. You're a crazy person. You wrote the book backwards and you've baffled people for years. And it doesn't matter that you need these fucking weird alien creatures where they suck the cum out of that thing's penis in order to make themselves immortal or some shit like that. I don't care. You know what I mean? But I had to put myself through it to get to the end and be like, I know exactly what kind of book I hate, and Burroughs wrote it.
That's a good point.
It's
that
a place
is
where
true.
I have my barometer. I was like, this line, fuck it.
Yeah,
so maybe that'll be your American
conversation
Psycho.
with somebody who, like, yeah, you know what's one of the greatest books ever written? American Psycho. And then you could be like, you know, I actually took the time to read that, you know, end to end, and you know what? You are a fucking moron.
This
And I can say
is
that
over.
because I read it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's it. That's find the way where you can actually shut someone up at a party. Like, I read American Psycho. It's the most beautiful. Shut the fuck up. It's a terrible movie. It's a terrible book. Bret Easton Ellis has written better things, which I haven't read.